I didn't want to do this. I didn't want to make a video about Ozempic, especially me being a full-time fat loss coach. I felt like that could have had a lot of repercussions, and I didn't want to deal with the negative comments or the negative opinions of people. But I decided, you know what, if I'm going to be open and honest about my own fat loss journey that I've shared for the last 20 years, then I need to disclose everything. I've struggled with binge eating for most of my life, and I'm going to make a video on that in the future. If you want to be notified when I drop that video, please subscribe below. This way you will know when that video drops. But I struggle with binge eating ever since I started my weight loss journey. So when I started my weight loss journey, I did it in a very unhealthy way. I was severely under eating. I was overexerting myself with exercise, and I lost 100 pounds in about 6 months, but I did it the wrong way. I developed a really bad binge eating disorder. I would go really hard during the week with my workouts and my nutrition, but then on the weekend I would binge really, really bad. And that pattern of behavior really stayed with me for most of my teens and even 20s. When I did my first bodybuilding show at the age of 18, I went 6 straight months with no cheat meals, no sweets, no snacks. I was fully committed. But then right after the show finished, I gained about 30 pounds within a month because I was just binging night after night after night. I felt like a runaway train. I just couldn't stop. About 5 years ago, I was binging really bad one night on a jar of peanut butter. After I ate all the peanut butter, I went to bed. I woke up at about 4 in the morning in excruciating pain. I felt like I was being stabbed in my abdomen by a bunch of knives. I was really, really concerned, really worried, so I drove myself to the hospital. As soon as I got there, they took me back, they began to run some tests on me, and they did an ultrasound, and an ultrasound revealed that my gallbladder was about to rupture. So they scheduled emergency surgery. And I'll never forget, the doctor came into my room right after surgery, telling me surgery was a success, everything was good. But he told me, he's like, if you would have waited a few more hours to come see us, there's a good chance your gallbladder would have ruptured and you would be dead. Hearing this from him, it made me really, really worried because it was no longer just about looking a certain way and managing my binge eating disorder to look ripped or look lean. But now I was having some really serious health repercussions. So I was really, really scared. And I knew I had to manage this moving forward, having had my gallbladder just taken out. I sought out therapists, food therapists, which I didn't even know was a thing until I started Googling them. And that didn't really work for me. I went and sat down. I just couldn't identify why I was binging. All I knew was I liked food. I liked the way it tasted. I liked the pleasure I got from it. So I did it. That was really all I could figure out. So I went to my doctor and I asked him if there was any medication I could take or anything that would curb my cravings, curb my urges to binge, and that's when he suggested Ozempic. Now again, this was 5 years ago, so right now Ozempic is all the craze. All of the celebrities are taking it. Back then, this was primarily just a diabetes medication, and that's what Ozempic is. It was really created to help manage blood sugar levels. But they found that all of the patients that were taking Ozempic were also losing massive amount of weight. So they said, okay, well, this has some great weight loss application, hence, which is where we are today with the craze of people taking Ozempic. Now, my doctor put me on Ozempic. I started taking it. And the way Ozempic works is it really just keeps you full. So it slows gastric emptying, which means that when you eat food, it takes longer for the food in your stomach to digest. So think about it. If it's taking longer to digest, then you're not going to want to go stuff your face and eat, right? The problem with Ozempic is when you try to overeat, or if you try to stuff your face, you get really, really sick and you get really nauseous and you have some really serious stomach issues, which is what I had on Ozempic. So with Ozempic, you are essentially taking a shot once a week. So you take an insulin needle, you really don't feel it, and you do this shot of the medication once a week. And in the beginning, you notice it right away. Especially for me, I was someone as a kid where I was told to finish all the food on my plate. So I had never left a meal not having devoured everything in front of me. And this was the first time in my life being on Ozempic was when I would stop eating about halfway through my meal. So I immediately began to notice the positive benefits of it. And it really helped curb my urges to binge and go overboard with my eating. So I thought, okay, this is great. This is exactly what I've been looking for. Now with Ozempic, you have to titrate your doses up every single week. You might start by injecting 0.15 milliliters, then 0.20 the next week, then 0.25, because your body begins to pretty much get used to the dosage you're taking. And what I began to notice was as I started to titrate my doses a little bit higher each week, I would start to get really, really nauseous, especially when I would work out. I remember being in the gym, being in the middle of a set, and literally feeling the urge to go find the nearest trash can and just throw up. And for me, training is something I really enjoy. So to have my training hindered by feeling nauseous, like that was a horrible, horrible experience. Another thing I noticed on Ozempic was I had really, really bad constipation. Now, some people have a lot of gastrointestinal problems on it. Some people have diarrhea. Some people have constipation. Everyone's a little bit different. I can only speak on what I experienced, but my constipation was really, really bad. I remember sitting on the toilet, it was almost like trying to squeeze a grapefruit through a straw. Like, it was painful every single time. I started to think to myself, why am I doing this? Why am I taking these injections every week? Why am I putting myself through feeling nauseous almost every morning, feeling nauseous almost every workout, having really bad constipation to the point where I had to take laxatives almost every single day, which would cause diarrhea. And the thing with laxatives, if you've never taken them before, is when you take one, you don't know when it's gonna hit. So I might be in my car or at the store, and then all of a sudden have to get home because I had explosive diarrhea. Probably too much information, but it is what it is. I was really scared to get off Ozempic because I thought, okay, well, once I get off the medication, what's gonna happen? Am I gonna regain all the weight? Are my urges and cravings gonna come back? And the truth is, the habits I was forming on Ozempic was actually helping me, because now I was forming the habits of not having to feel like I had to finish all the food on my plate. I was limiting the binges, because if you try binging on Ozempic, you're gonna get sick to your stomach. I was able to stop myself from overeating. So I said, you know what? I'm gonna get off the medication and see how I do. And the truth is, when you form these habits long-term, they have a really positive role. I knew I didn't want to be on Ozempic forever, but I was really scared to get off Ozempic because I thought I might revert back to my patterns of binging and overeating, and I thought I was going to gain weight at an excessive rate because this medication had been helping me for the past months. But what I began to realize was I had developed all of these habits that helped me to avoid binging and helped me to not feel like I had to eat every single piece of food on my plate. And the Ozempic did help with that. But once I got off Ozempic, I realized that, you know what, I do have the power and the ability to not binge. Whereas before, I had never gone more than a week without binging. So it was more of a habitual pattern of behavior that I was following just because it was habit. So having been on Ozempic all this time, I realized it wasn't so much the medication, it was more forming the habits and realizing and understanding the patterns of behavior that I was following that made me realize I do have the power to say no to food. I do have the power to get up from the table and not have to eat every single bit of food in front of me. I do have the power to not binge eat or feel like I'm a slave to my food addiction. So a lot of it was just identifying certain patterns of behavior and not doing those things anymore. Now, I'm not going to tell you to take Ozempic or not take Ozempic, because only you can make that decision. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a licensed health professional, and I would never endorse any type of medication. Like anything in life, nothing is 100% bad or 100% good. So you have to make your own decision. I can only share with you what I've experienced on the medication myself. Now, one thing I will tell you, having worked with a lot of clients who have taken Ozempic, more people end up in a worse situation on Ozempic than when they started. Because when they start, they lose a lot of weight, but they usually end up losing a lot of body fat, a lot of muscle tissue, and a lot of bone density. So most people's body fat percentage actually increases while they're losing weight because they're losing so much muscle because they simply can't eat. So most people are malnourished. It's like a lot of the people that have the bariatric stomach surgery that have their stomachs shrunken. Oftentimes they have malnourishment issues because they simply can't consume more than 800 calories a day. And that's exactly what Ozempic does, but without the surgery. So one thing I would advise, if you decide you wanted to go on the medication, make sure you're following a proper healthy lifestyle. Make sure you're getting your protein, make sure you're weight training, make sure you're living a healthy lifestyle. Because if you're just doing this just to lose weight, I promise you, you're gonna end up regaining the weight and going right back into the destructive pattern of behavior that got you to be overweight in the first place. So again, everyone has to make their own decision. I'm not endorsing Ozempic. I'm not 100% against Ozempic. I think it has certain positive applications, but also just realize there's a lot of negative associations with taking the drug and a lot of negative side effects as well. And the truth is, we don't have enough long-term studies to know what this is gonna do to people 10, 20 years down the road. You're an adult, so make an informed decision. Again, this video just serves for me to share my story with you and be as open and honest on my health journey, because the truth is I'm always wanting to understand and try different things, and I want to share those experiences with you. So thank you for allowing me to do that today. If you liked this video, please like and subscribe to the channel. And if there's something else you want me to talk about, or if there's a topic or a fitness subject that you've been struggling with, drop it in the comments below and I will make a video on that topic. Thanks for tuning in. Talk soon.